A community is remembering an officer killed in the line of duty. Good evening. I'm Eric Franke.
And I'm Michelle Lee. Officer Ryan Copeland was the canine handler for McFarland. He was killed in a head-on crash this afternoon near Albion.
Police say the 33-year-old was just starting his shift when that crash happened. A woman driving a DNR truck crossed the center line. It collided with Copeland's squad car.
Now, police are still looking into that crash, but tickets are pending. Our team coverage starts with Matthew Simon live in McFarland tonight. Matthew, a very hard day for the community.
Very hard indeed. You can just feel the sense of shock and sadness here in McFarland. Michelle, as people here learn, it was Ryan. Officer Ryan Copeland was the officer killed in the line of duty. And as they learn this, as this sets in tonight here at the Municipal Center, they remembered him. They started this poignant remembrance with something that did not take words.
At this time, let us rise for a moment of silence in remembrance of Officer Copeland.
It began with a moment of silence as for the first time Wisconsin publicly learned who the McFarland officer killed in the line of duty was.
It is with a heavy heart that I can confirm that a McFarland Police Department lost one of its own today when Officer Ryan Copeland passed away as a result of a car crash.
And in an instant, that head-on crash left McFarland without their canine officer who poured his life and soul into the program.
Just one of those one-in-a-million kind of people that is hard to replace.
Chief Craig Shervin brought his 15-member department together to mourn the retired Army Special Forces Green Beret and sniper.
Just, shock, surprise. Nobody would have ever seen this coming, from an individual like Ryan that had survived so much in his time and through his military career and a couple tours in Iraq, and no one would have foreseen something like this happening to someone like that.
Yeah, so much sadness here in McFarland. The local newspaper had profiled Officer Copeland when he was hired a couple of years ago, and in there he talked about a lot. He talked about his wife, and you heard the village president tonight with a heavy heart. He says the community mourns with the family. They've asked Governor Walker to lower state flags to honor the officer. Michelle.
Matthew, I understand we're also starting to hear a little bit more about Officer Copeland's funeral service.
Right, Michelle. In that story, you saw a couple of pictures, right? You saw the picture that they have here at City Hall, his official officer picture. You also saw the military picture, that homage to that service. But we're talking about an elite military member, a Green Beret, somebody who was a sniper. So with that service, the police chief actually says his military service will play a big role in his funeral service.
Wow, very tough story today. Matthew Simon reporting from McFarland. Matthew, thank you.
And Danica Lewis continues our team coverage, sitting down with a woman who knows hundreds of canine officers, but says Copeland stood out. And Danica, I know a lot of people wondering about the dog. We understand the dog is okay.
That's right. McFarland's police chief actually says Canine Boris was in a kennel and not in the squad car at the time of the crash. While Donna Morgan was relieved to hear that, she could hardly believe Copeland is dead. Morgan is the head of the Wisconsin Vested Dog program, and Boris received a donated vest back in February. But Morgan is now torn apart to hear that Boris and his owner, partner, and best friend are torn apart way too soon.
He just wanted to do everything he could do to protect Boris. He felt that it was very unfair that, he got to wear a vest and Boris didn't. And if he could have had it the other way around, he would have given Boris the vest and gone without one himself.
Now Morgan remembers the care Copeland took not just for his canine, but for fellow officers and their dogs. He was even planning a surprise visit to a little girl who raised $75 selling lemonade, helping to buy Boris his bulletproof vest. That visit was supposed to happen next month.
I feel very bad that Maria's not going to get that surprise now. That probably would have been the best Christmas gift she ever had.
Morgan says Boris's world will be different without his human half. Again, Boris is alive and well, but no word on what his future holds on the McFarland force. But when talking about Officer Copeland, Morgan called him irreplaceable and says he simply stood out with the amount of passion he had for his job, his canine companion, and just the care he had for other people, Eric.
This is just such a sad story from so many angles. Danica Lewis reporting. Danica, thank you.
Sure.